Are we looking good this morning? Yes. Great. So maybe I'll start with a little context. So thank you for sharing a little bit about the gender gap that we are seeing in AI. 20% only for women. But what we found is that at LinkedIn, many AI professionals actually have non-engineering skills, and maybe some of you can share with me too. They actually bring critical soft skills, things like leadership, management, and public speaking. So it is interesting that women, whom we thought have better soft skills, are actually lacking in the numbers. So maybe I can start with Sarah. Maybe you can share with us a little bit of the definition around what AI really means, what EI really means.
Yes, good morning. What a brain power and energy in this room. I just want to thank Women's Forum to bring in such gathering and exchange, grow learning and networking opportunities to Asia. So thank you very much, Women's Forum, Kiara. I would like to start with a very simple, my favorite definition about emotional intelligence. Let me read that for you. Emotional intelligence is having a heightened level of self and social awareness and eagerness to solve problems, the ability to read people and adjust accordingly, and the mindset to view changes as an opportunity rather than a threat. For artificial intelligence, the definition is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially by computer systems. These processes include learning, reasoning, and self-correction. So my theory is that with all the hype about artificial intelligence, why does that pose so much emotional response, right? Human beings, we are used to change. From the first industrial revolution, from the steam engines, to the second one by the electricity, and the third one by computer. And now we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution. And why does that give us so much angst, right? And the theory, my theory, this is my personal theory, is that change is a constant, but based upon the big data, based upon the computing power, and based upon the technology advancement, somehow everything happened so fast, so much faster. So let me give you some benchmark. Back in the old days, some of the millennials probably have even seen a phone, right? A normal telephone. It took 75 years for telephone to reach 100 million users globally. 75 years. And this number, when we talk about internet, it took 7 years. And Facebook took 4.5 years to reach 100 million users. WeChat, it took 14 months. So ladies and gentlemen, we are competing against time. Everything happens so fast. Future comes so fast, and I think that's part of the emotion and all the hype about artificial intelligence and how we balance that with emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sonia, at Microsoft, right, you mentioned that AI enhances creativity. Do you think that's a soft skill that can actually overcome or even enhance AI?
Totally. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sonal, and thanks for having me here. So at Microsoft, I would like to say that we try to empower everyone. I think this statement everybody hears every day a lot of times. So something that enhances creativity is something how we communicate more efficiently, effectively, and inclusively. So there are myriad of creative initiatives which is happening in Microsoft. However, I can name few of them. There's a new feature that's called Collections that's going to come in the Microsoft Edge browser, which can organize your content intelligently on the Microsoft browser. And let's suppose you are shopping for a camera, and you are obvious to go into different product websites. So what you can do is whatever you choose, you want to keep that into your collections panel in the Microsoft Edge browser, and then intelligently it will organize those pictures with their price, with their user ratings, and then put you into a recommendation engine. So that's something like very creative and relatable to every one of us. So that's one of the features that I thought I would call that out. The other one is Microsoft Search Engine. We are doing extensive work on making the Microsoft Search intelligent, more intelligent. How we are doing it right now is like simple search. We try to find out, and then it will give us all the search areas, websites, references, etc. However, it's trying to make itself comprehend the questions more easily. Like if I want to ask that, can I bring kids to work? So it will search all the policies in Microsoft or whichever company is the data set, and really comprehend the paragraph where it states that can you bring kids to work, and then answer me to my question. So that's how we are working on the intelligent Microsoft search. Some of the other things, like we all have worked with Microsoft Word. So Word Online is also trying very hard, and then we are about to roll out new suggestions features in Microsoft Word, which can give you suggestions where, how you can make your documents look better. A similar feature, we are already using it in PowerPoint and Excel. So I think you all know about
PowerPoint.
it. So yes. That's one of that. So I think there are couple of things that we are currently doing at Microsoft which enhances creativity. These are simple initiatives, but it makes a lot of difference for us to really make impact within our lives.
And at Lenovo, do you agree with that? Just to pit the tech giants, I mean, LinkedIn is part of Microsoft.
Thanks, Linda. Good morning, everyone. And it's my privilege to be here at the Women's Forum. So, artificial intelligence is as the introducer was saying, right? It's good at tasks that are repetitive, where you can teach. It's repetitive. It's doing. The moment it comes to stuff that involves empathy, cognitive learning, there is a gap, right? So obviously at Lenovo, we are creating technology that helps build AI. So our job is, we are the tool provider. We are the guy who are creating the help build the infrastructure along with Microsoft and other partners. So there are two parts to this. The first is in the product design and itself, right? So we want to make sure that the products that we create or the technology that we create can actually take in diversity and actually handle diverse views, opinions, and capabilities. So, and the way we do it is very simple, because in AI, when you talk about AI, it's all about who designed it, how it's designed, what's being taught to the machine. So we have a very diverse team in our product engineering and design teams to actually design the product. So we build in diversity into the design process so that it gets built into the technology itself. In fact, our head of our AI lab in Lenovo is actually a lady, Feiyu.
Was holding my breath there,
She's a brilliant lady, and it's fantastic to hear her speak, because she always brings in, both the hardware side as well as the soft side, the emotional side. The other piece of it is data, because again, AI is as good as how you teach it, what data you teach it. And unfortunately, there are inherent biases in the data. And I think that's what starts taking away some of the emotional intelligence quotient out of it. I was seeing some data, is very interesting, right? So face recognition, it's one of the most common applications today. You have it on your phone, you have it on your PCs, Lenovo PCs, you can use your face as a password, etc. But the best face recognition engine, the recognition, the accuracy levels, for a light male or a light-colored male, it's about 100%. For a dark-colored male, it's about 99%.
Oh.
For a light female, it's 90%. And for a dark female, it's 68%. Right? So you'll have to understand that when we say diversity, of course, we stop. I mean, we don't stop. We normally think of woman and male, female, woman, and man. But I think we need to go to the next level. We need to start looking at diversity in a little more inclusive, in a broad way. We need to talk about race, ethnicity, color, etc., and make sure that the technology is ready to be able to handle this level of diversity, because with that will come in the emotional intelligence or the training into the system.
Fantastic. The numbers are appalling, to be honest.
And by the way, this study was last year, so it's not like 10 years old. This is just 2018 data.
Wow.
So
We need to combine
there
next
is a
year
problem.
and have better numbers, right? Yeah, I just want to shift gear to Ayesha. I know you work with governments all over the world. You have clients on just understanding a little bit more about AI. You yourself is a co-founder and CEO of a startup. You say startup. She has 70 people. So can you tell us a little bit more about like the work that you do on AI? I love the part about ethical framework. What does that mean? And tell us the core principles.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So the premise is where artificial intelligence meets emotional intelligence or empathy. And I want to ask you, why do you want that? Why do you want machines that can emulate emotional empathy and emotional IQ? Here's the thing, it all sounds really exciting, and we love to see Sophia, and we love to see how AI is becoming creative, but technology has to be governed properly. And it is human nature that when something exhibits any kind of empathy, we begin to respond to it. So it is very important, first of all, that the artificial intelligence has artificial emotional intelligence and reveals itself as such. So it should be very obvious if your children are talking to somebody, or if your elderly parent who has Alzheimer's even is talking to a doctor, and that's an AI, and it provides value, but at the same time, we are aware that that's machine intelligence and machine emotional empathy. This is important because of the high probability that AI will do as much good in the world as it could potentially be harnessed to do evil as well. And I don't want any of you to come to panels like this and think it's all great news. It is good news. All of us are going to have a more exciting future, but each of us, you and me, need to be aware that technology has to be governed. And Singapore has the first ethical framework for governance of AI, which means amplifying its values and potential and containing anything that may be negative externalities. So for me, it's very important that this idea of AI being emotional and having emotional intelligence is not only about it mimicking humans to the degree that it becomes indistinguishable, but in fact that it becomes useful while we retain our agency. I have an AI company. We build AI engines, but wherever we go, the human is always in control and is front and center and has the confidence to make AI work for it and with it and not happen to it. And I think that's my message in terms of anything that we do with AI.
Yes.
That sounds great. Could you give us example of when you say human is front and center in your design phase?
Yeah, absolutely. So what does that mean that the human is front and center? It means that first of all, we have to try and remove the black box. Our tendency is that we believe, first of all, that the machine is always smarter. We can't help ourselves. That's what happened to Amazon, right? When they were actually systematically hiring more men because the AI engine was telling them that men are better qualified for that job. Well, we know that's almost never the case. But it happened because the data that was going in was actually biased. And people need to be empowered. So the first thing that we do is we say no matter what your background, whether you're a man or a woman or your age, or whether you are a designer or a business expert, you need to understand some basics of AI techniques. That doesn't mean you should become a machine learning engineer like myself, but you should be empowered to understand logically what's happening. And you should trust your own domain expertise. So that's very important. And then the data tells you an answer, the AI gives you an answer, but then there is a systematic probing of its results, its bias, and testing it to meet the goals of the humans. So I think that's the way in which we encourage people by empowering them to understand what is essentially many times just a black box.
Fantastic. So,
Can I just add
yeah,
one more
please.
thing? Actually, at Microsoft, we use some of the guiding principles, which are like, we take them so seriously, like fairness, inclusivity, then accountability and explainability. I think it's one of the most important things, that it's good that AI is learning everything. Sophia is learning everything. But can she explain why is she saying like that? So the most important thing that we should be focusing on is explainability, even if it is most advanced. One of those, and then privacy. Privacy is one of the areas that, even if it is most advanced AI, it should keep in mind and go ahead with that. Yeah.
very much so. And I want to shift gear to also Kevin. In the learning education space, what we know is that AI is penetrating into your industry. Can you tell us more, maybe like what is happening, I guess, in the education industry as it relates to AI? But also at the same time, do you feel like we can teach AI something, or they can teach us something, just from a learning perspective?
Hello? Oh, okay. Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Young. Thank you for having me. From a learning perspective, I suppose one thing to answer your question is one of the goals at SIM, or Singapore Institute of Management, is we hope to replace robots with humans by 2025.
Wow.
All right?
We're going to have a very different conversation
in
2025 in Singapore.
And so if you think about AI, it's quite trendy as a topic. Actually, let me try something. One of the questions that we had to prepare was why is there only 22% women in AI and 78%? So I'm going to try something in the audience. Can I ask the audience, how many of you have taken mathematics growing up in school? How many have taken statistics at some point in your education? Okay, very good. So the vast majority have done it. How many of you grew up playing Nintendo, Game Boy, and Sony PlayStations? So barely 1/3. That's the reason why we have more men in AI. You all have.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it, right? What goes? And I have Ayesha here. You can confirm this. One of the basic founding pieces of knowledge you need to know about AI is mathematics and statistics. So all of you are capable of doing AI. So why is it more men are in AI? Because we grew up playing Game Boy and...
we should ask all the schools to include Game Boy, Nintendo in the curriculum.
I'm convinced, right? If you think about it, when you think about AI, what do you link? It's computer. If you think of computers, computer games. If it's computer games, it's Game Boy. So it's an environment. It's not an inherent capability. So from a learning perspective, when you think about it that way, how do you train people to be proficient in the skills and capabilities needed in AI? Well, all of us have it. We have mathematics, we have statistics. The other thing that occurred to me, I don't know about you, I'm not an AI expert. Well, I have done some work in it. Back in the day, I actually tried to do my PhD in AI 20 years ago. And I can tell you, I started taking a coding class and my brain hurt like hell. I tried it again a couple of months ago. My brain still hurts like hell. It is a very difficult thing. And why is it difficult? Because I realized that learning how to code is like learning a new language. And here's the kicker. We all know that girls, women, learn languages faster and better than men and boys. So actually, if I follow the logic inherently, women should be better at AI. And some of you may even have heard of a lady called Grace Hopper. Yeah, of course we all know Grace Hopper. Of course we all know Grace Hopper, right? She's the very first human that spoke to a computer. Did you know that? She essentially created, or one of the pioneers of AI. So great, AI that works, not AI that doesn't work. So that's the first thing I would say. The two things when it comes to learning about capabilities. First thing, it's learning a language. At the same time, we all need mathematics and statistics, which we all have, but it's learning language. So you have to approach this as learning a new language. Second thing, why adopt this technology? Why adopt these skills in the first place? My view is that learning AI is a technology, like Ayesha pointed out. It's a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. For me, why do AI? So as someone who does research and innovation and creativity, I think we should employ technology like AI to make people's lives simpler and better. Okay, I'm going to ask the audience another question. I know I grew up being told never, never ask a woman her age. So I'm going to take a risk. How many of you are 33 years and older?
Very brave women.
Very brave.
I'm not answering that question.
So for those who are 33 years and older, your second question is, how many of you have listened to new music in the last year?
Oops.
Barely half. Of those who listen to new music, do you use Spotify? Oh, that's why, you see. It's because of Spotify we all listen to new music beyond the age of 33.
Anyone from Spotify?
Yeah.
That's
So
loud.
this is really interesting. A company called Deezer, a French competitor to Spotify, did a research and they realized that most people stop listening to new music by the time they're 33 years old. Right? Let's be honest. Tonight we all go home, we open a glass of wine, we turn on the radio and we listen to our favorite playlist, and that's from when we were 16, 17 years old, correct? New Kids on the Block? Yeah? There you go. No, but there's a very, very simple explanation, and it ties into the whole emotional intelligence thing. The reason why most of us don't listen to new music by the time we're 33 is because when you're 33, you have a family, you have a career, and all this good stuff, and when you have free time, what do? I go get a nice bottle of wine, I go to the restaurants, I hang out with my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and all that. We listened to new music when we were 16, 17 years old. We have nothing else better to do with our lives. Right? So that's one of the things that the engineers at Spotify realize. It's not that people don't want to listen. So there's a bit of empathy here, right? Thinking from the perspective of your user, your customer. That music plays a great part in our lives, but however, by the time we're 33 years old, we get so caught up with all these things, we don't look for new music. It's not that we don't want to. It's not a priority. So what do? They employ AI. They apply AI to help us discover new music. And it's a very simple idea. If you use Spotify, you always play the same 25 songs, let's be honest, okay? Right? And just think about it, we pay them $15 every month to listen to the same 25 songs. Okay? We should have stuck with CDs, we own the music. However, Spotify using AI has made our lives simpler because we listen to the same 25 songs, and they have a whole database of millions and millions of people with the same 25 songs. They start to match our music. My favorite playlist, your favorite playlist, we just need to match 80%. And the assumption is a pretty good one. If we have 80% overlap, there's a good chance the other 8 songs that I haven't heard, that you listen to, I might like, so they send it to you. So some people even say it's kind of freaky that Spotify understands my music preference better than me. Okay, so in a lot of ways, I come back to this point, why do we employ AI to make our lives simpler? Right, so this is a great thing about Spotify, but okay, one last story about Spotify. Anyone ever been to a small city in Belgium called Ypres, or YPRES? So if you ever go to Ypres, this is post-World War II, and I mean it's one of those small little cities that got ravaged by World War II. It rebuilt itself. It's essentially a museum. And I read a book about some guy who went there, and there's in outdoor speakers they play classical music. So it's Sebastian Bach and all that. And after about half an hour to 45 minutes of listening to Sebastian Bach, he suddenly hears Justin Timberlake's "Sexy Back." And then it switches back to classical music. He goes to the tourism office to look for the map, and then he just asked the lady, "Oh, did you play your favorite music list on the outdoor speakers?" They say, "Oh no, we just use Spotify." So Spotify can't tell the difference between Justin Timberlake and John Sebastian Bach. Why? Because it doesn't think in the empathy sense. It just looks at data. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Usually you need to pay to hear him, Yeah, I just want to also look at the concept of trust. I think there's a lot of emerging talk around whether you can trust AI. People fail, machines fail. I would love to bring this back to Sarah and maybe tell us a little bit more about like the fear of AI and how we can actually build trust around that, you know.
Thank you. AI and trust, I think that's in everyone's back of our mind. So trust equaled or in relation to fear. So when I talk to people and when I read, I sense there are three different kinds of fear related to AI. One is the fear of being replaced, right? We think that machine is faster, more accurate, more efficient, and they're learning, they're becoming smarter, so they're replacing human jobs. The second fear is about the invasion of our privacy. We'll talk about data, you know, big data, our data. You know, we are numbers of transactions, and we are your next propensity to buy. We are age groups and, you know, our preference. So we are very, as individuals, we're very, very afraid of what is the next invasion of our privacy. And the third fear, I believe, is fear of AI become out of control, right? They are so smart, and Sophia can destroy all of us, right? So I think the thing is, how do we manage this? You might fear more fear that we can talk about it. But if I look at the three, I think the first one has a lot about education, about our own education, about what is AI, and more importantly, we have more and more discussion about not just what is the technology advancement can bring to the efficiency of human society, but we're talking about how to combine and how to harmonize the human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And I think that's a wonderful things we're talking about. So with more education, I think as an employer, we are responsible for develop huge future-ready skills in our people. So what is that? To put it very simply, future-ready capabilities, we're talking about lateral thinking capabilities, we're talking about problem solving, and we're talking about human intelligence or emotional intelligence and leadership. Right? So as an employer, we want to develop a learning organization, want people to have future-ready capabilities. For the second fear about lack of control, I think I'm so pleased to hear about the ethic framework on the technology, right? We need to understand, and I think we need policies from as high as government level to the responsible corporations that take this seriously, and we need to put the design of ethic framework into the design phase. Otherwise, it will be too late. The third fear about the whole world is going to be overtaken by machines. I think those are with the awareness. AI really is a tool, is a capability that will help augment people capability, right? So just let me give you an example. What is 5 times 8?
40.
40, yes, okay. What is 12 times 12? 144, very good. You know, we took math. But what is 12 times 15 times 1020? Yes. Right? So calculators, calculators can do that better than we do, right? It's the same thing with AI. It is a tool, it's a capability. And we need to invest in our future-ready, the human-specific qualities, emotion, intelligence, so we can always be the designer and be the controller of what is the direction of our technology.
You want to add?
Yeah, I think earlier on when the Sophia chat was going on, right, there was this thing about that a lot of our imagery around AI is built on Hollywood, right? So I don't know about maybe the younger people in the audience, but my imagery of AI goes back to the Terminator movies.
Wow.
Right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll
classic.
be back. You know? So, and unfortunately, I mean, that's been perpetuated, and people, so there's a little bit of fear against AI. I think there's also a very important thing about telling the good side of AI. As Sarah just pointed out, I think AI is a tool. It's how we use it that comes up. You know, for example, at Lenovo, I mean, in our AI labs, we are doing a project with one of the largest hospitals in China, where we are trying to predict certain types of cancer based on the data that's available in normal testing. You don't have to go through a biopsy and all that. So, and there is a study that says that, you know, about 20 years or maybe less than that from now, it will not be health care, it will be health, which means it's preventive. And if we can actually use data to make sure that we are detecting the disease before it happens and be able to take preventive care, then you don't need to be reactive. Today, healthcare is mostly reactive. So similar, I mean, there are many examples where I think machines can, to Kevin's point, make lives better. And I think there needs to be a little more of communication and sharing. The other oft-repeated thing is about that AI will come and machines will take over my jobs. Now, we need to understand that every revolution, the first, second, third industrial revolution, so on, there have been changes of jobs. Jobs have not gone away, they've increased, it's transformed, right? So AI is similar. This fourth industrial revolution, jobs will be transformed. And to Kevin's point, I think we need to train ourselves, learn. He talked about that after 33, we don't learn new music. I think after 33, we stop even learning new technology. I think that's very far away, new areas. So I think there is a need to learn and transform. I was just reading an article last week. I live in Mumbai. There was an article in one of the leading newspapers, Times of India, that talked about how artificial intelligence is creating a new category of jobs for women in India. And it's very simple. You have a lot of codification of data that needs to happen. You know, like your autonomous car needs to know every street name, everything. And there's a huge industry that's now coming up to help codify data, to help train the machines, to build empathy, to build. And that can be done out of home. And, you know, you need basic skills. Maybe not mathematics and statistics, but, you know, English skills to be able to do that. So there will be new jobs. I think people need to learn, transform, reskill themselves to get there.
Yeah, so what does the educator there mean?
In terms of trust,
Yeah.
oh, we should never trust AI.
I knew he's going to have a contrarian view.
Oh, have any of you use Google Maps? Do you like it? Do you trust it? Come on, be honest. Right? Okay, my point is that it's not so much whether we trust AI or not, but the tools and AI is designed to make our lives simpler. So Google Maps is great. I resisted using Google Maps for many, many years. Eventually caved in.
Why?
Why? Because I didn't know how to use a smartphone. Okay.
Yeah, just about 33.
No,
yeah.
yeah. But it was really interesting. I think Google Maps Google Maps for me is a double edge. I realized that Google Maps is AI, AI type technology, and we've become very reliant on it. And it's made our lives very simple. But and especially when we travel to any country, we don't need to bring maps. We don't need to prepare. We turn out we have Google Maps. What happens if you run out of battery? Right? If you run out of battery and you're a strange country, you don't know how to read maps anymore, you are lost. So on the one hand, while Google Maps has made our lives much simpler, it has also erased some of our certain skills, basic skills of the ability to read a map. And if I don't have battery, I can't find my way around. So that's something worth thinking about from an education standpoint. Yeah, please. Okay, and just a last comment about jobs. One of the things that we're thinking about is one of the great opportunities of AI is, do you know how we fill jobs at work and we hire people for jobs? We kind of say, okay, we define a job scope, we put a JD out, and then we try to hire someone, and then we find recruiters, whatnot, and we never find the right person, and we kind of find the 80% correct person, and then we try to force them and train them to be 100% fit for the job. Here's a crazy idea. Why don't we build the jobs around the person? And using AI to augment certain skills, and we build jobs around people, and people will work 100% well and be productive and happy. It's a crazy thought.
Mm-hmm. Any reaction to that?
Well, I think that, yeah, and by the way, I mean, obviously I run an AI company. I'm a machine learning engineer and data scientist.
We should be
you won't
so scared of
find
you.
anyone more AI, pro AI than me, but it is also my job, again, to point out, you know, what is actually happening, and are you aware of it? Because more than anything else, my mission is that people should know what they're getting into and how things work. So Google Maps, I use it all the time. So sweet of Google. Yes. But what am I giving Google in exchange for all of my usage of it? And Facebook and all wonderful companies, and of course some of them are my clients as well. But it is important for all of us to now think in a more European way, I think with GDPR and others, and really believe in data ownership and data as a human right, my right to my data as much as to my body, my micro behavior, my right. Now that is a stance we should take as human beings. Then the question becomes, but I still want all the convenience, I still want the Google Maps, I still want the feeds, I still want the better healthcare. And therein lies the innovation that we'll see with so-called small data, where data simulation, data generation, which then again spawns off potential other issues. But always we should guide AI innovation to enhance our sense of worth, our sense of self, and not let us become lost in a digital pool of data. In that sense, I think the West, especially Europe, has quite a lot to teach us. And I'm glad to see a number of Asian countries now thinking about this more seriously and empowering, educating, and adding data as another feature to our being that we have the right to.
Fantastic. Amazing conversation. I just want to also ask something quite personal. I mean, I think Kevin has alluded to something when we talked about how we should be thinking about learning, but as we overcome this future of work, how the changes AI brings to the industry that you are living in, the world that we are living in, I would love to ask this panel, what is your advice, or has someone else helped you along the way? I would love to hear a simple anecdote from yourselves. Maybe we can start with Emma.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think in my mind, I think Ayesha was talking about it, right? So why is it 22%? Actually, there's absolutely no reason it needs to be 22%. At Lenovo, we have diversity and inclusion as it's not a choice. I think the previous panel someone was saying, it's a business necessity. If we need to design technology that is not biased, we need to have enough diversity in building the technology. We need to have enough diversity in training the technology. So, for example, the face recognition I was talking about before, we're using our 57,000 employees, because it's very diverse employees, as a project. We're experimenting with it now to use their faces to train our technology, because we have our own data. So I think it's really about people wanting to learn new things, right? And being open to reskilling, learning new things. All of us have learned to use Google Maps. I'll teach Kevin after this session how to use Google Maps. It's actually made our life simpler. So I think we need to learn. And personally, obviously, maybe I'm a little old relatively. I've actually signed up for a course on data analytics, and I'm doing this online data analytics course. It happens to be run out of a US-based Ivy League college. I had a class this morning at 7 a.m. by the way. Wow. So it's an online video conference.
Humility there.
And by the way, I'm in India, so today is 7 a.m. It's better. Normally it's 4:30 a.m. So it's better. But the thing is, it's just opened my eyes so differently to about how you use data, how you use artificial intelligence, how you use machine learning, with a goal to improve lives. And I think that I would really encourage people to look at what they can learn, new things, and really build, and not have the fear of technology. I would encourage them to learn it and change themselves, reskill themselves. Of course, if you learn it on a Lenovo computer, you'll have the best results.
And you can choose the Singapore time zone with SIM next time. Just kidding. Go ahead, Sarah.
I really would like to just follow on to that. My personal story is that I actually built my career with big data. I was in one of the first data mining companies, and I was in data analytics. I was talking to all the C-levels about how to solve customer relationship management using data modeling and data analytics. So the last 10 years, I've been in general management, so I really lost touch with that, the data that I have been always very passionate about. And AI, I'm a user. What I do is, besides signing on, I'm only auditing. I'm not signing on to be the fixed time. I can do the courses on my own time. So I'm on Coursera. Anyone knows about Coursera? EDS? These are fabulous online learning sources, right? So I sign on to data analytics and big data just to refresh my own knowledge. Lately, I find a fantastic source of knowledge, and that is called podcast, right? So on podcast, how many people use podcast? If you have not, please do so, and you can do anything with it. You can read a novel, you can look at your hobby, and I'm following AI, and I'm even learning Italiano.
Wow, for your next holiday.
So speaking, and this is really about lifelong learning, and this is about how do we continue to develop our mind? How do we continue to nourish our spirit? Ladies and gentlemen, they are fantastic sources because of the technology, and let's use that. But in the meantime, as a consumer, as a citizen, let's be very aware of what the invasion of data that can happen. So we all need to be so aware of, and we need to make our voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's LinkedIn Learning, just saying.
For me, artificial intelligence often boils down to the human stories. So we do a lot of work in natural language processing, and one of our clients is an insurance company, a very large one in Asia, and they were pointing out the fact that when women who are pregnant call customer service agents, one of the most commonly asked questions is a condition like preeclampsia covered by my insurance contract? And usually the gentleman or woman at the call center at the other end doesn't even know what that condition means, and then has to look through this long document and find that answer and says, I'll get back to you. And meanwhile, you can imagine that woman who's pregnant is stressed and worried. And now we are building an engine that can very quickly find that information, give her if she's covered or not, under what conditions she's covered, and what she needs to pay or do to get that insurance in case she has that condition. When you remember human stories, then it's easier to remember why you're working on AI. And if at the same time that woman's information is protected, is not used against her in any way, then I think that my team and I have done our job. We have had the governance in place and also helped her ease her stress during this important time. So I hope that all of us, no matter what our role is in new businesses that all require AI, we do remember the human story in it, because that's what ultimately motivates all of us.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, it's a little different. I want to really ask each one of you that you are, not ask, really tell each one of you that you are unique in your certain ways. You don't have those, nobody else has those capabilities that you have. So in the future of work, like we're talking about, the only soft skills would be something like persuasion, storytelling, like Ayesha said, working, collaborating with the people, people management skills, motivation. Is if these skills, which are skills that we can develop, if you can really work on those, I think those are going to be essential, really essential for the future of our work. And the trusting part and the fear of the AI will be a continuous journey, and it's subjective to each individual. Like if an AI algorithm says that I could be a CEO next day, I would feel that, yeah, this AI algorithm says nice things about me, I might trust it. On the other hand, if I have someone who would say that I might have a heart attack, I have a different feeling about it, and I might not trust the person or not trust the algorithm at all. So it's subjective. It's subjective to the circumstances, to individuals, to conditions. So my advice, my takeaway, and to each one of you would be like, be your open mind and be creative in your own ways and start giving ideas. I think one day there will definitely be, in a meeting room, you will be saying, everyone else will be saying, aha, because of your idea. So that's the moment, I think, because of this whole event. If we could get you land in that position, I think the job is done. Yeah.
And Kevin, bring us home.
Thank you. I think of, so it's something quite personal to me. I think of the future of work as the future of 1964. And yeah, let me put that in context. So I've been Chief Learning Officer at Singapore Institute of Management for 10 days.
10 days, guys.
And anyway, it's all about speed, right? And I don't know how many of you know Singapore Institute of Management, and I can tell you this. 3 months ago when I was interviewing for the job, I brought to the table my own personal biases and stereotypes of what Singapore Institute of Management is. This was supposed to be a school for those who couldn't make it to NUS, NTU, and whatnot, correct? Any SIM graduates here? Be honest.
Well, it's an international
thank you.
audience.
So that was my bias. But of course, being the good Singaporean boy that I am, that you prepare for your interview, you go to study the history of the institution or the job that you're interviewing for. And I realized that in 1964, Singapore Institute of Management was a spin-off from the Economic Development Board of Singapore, and it was not for tertiary education. It was to upskill, reskill the population of Singapore, executives, the workforce. Because in 1964, if you know anything about in Singapore, Singapore was inviting all the MNCs to come into Singapore for the first time to set up shop, and there was no workers. The labor force was not ready. So SIM was set up to prepare the workforce. So it's kind of ironic that when they posed a job to me, say the job of the CLO is to upskill, reskill, whatever skill, individuals, lifelong learning, SMEs, enterprises, industries, and governments. I thought, wow, this is a great job, right? And I thought a few things happened. First thing, I spent my last 20 years of my career in a very privileged position. I was working at all these high-end universities with you know, we were educating the top 1% or top 5%, really, really smart people, really smart kids. And then I realized, yeah, that's how I'm going to affect society, 5% of society. But in this job, at SIM, it's about affecting the whole of society, 100%. That's kind of scary. And I thought, oh, this is really cool, very ambitious and all good. And then I turned up for work 10 days ago. And in the past 10 days, I started meeting all my colleagues. They've been doing this for the last 20 years. That's humbling. And this is not new. The technology may be different, the jobs may be different, but the motivations are the same. It's about upskilling, reskilling, and people. And it's about creating value, not only for economy, but for the individual. Thank you.
Singapore is glad for you to make that change. Thank you so much to my amazing panelists. Just to sum up, I have 2 takeaways. Never stop learning, especially if you're after 33, because language matters and women are better at it. And don't forget to play your Nintendo. So the last piece is responsibility is in our hands. You know, I love Ayesha's point that, you know, we look at policies. Sabra mentioned that it comes on at the design level. I think all of us in this room has the power to do that, no matter how senior you are or even how entry level you are. And AI is how we use it, is not anything else. So very simple layman takeaway for all of you.